don't mind my messy hair. I just got out of the shower and I have yet to brush it. just, if it could stay, uh, I give up. I give up with my hair. It's fine. Everything's fine. So this is my first video, as I promised on my TikTok, about witchcraft. The first thing I want to address, however, is not about spells yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start talking about mythology first. I'm going to start bringing you guys more aware. If you guys want to know specific mythology, leave it in the comments and I will look into it. I personally work with the Greeks. So I work with Apollo, I work with Hades, Artemis, and Ares. I am allowed to say I work with them. Some gods are very fickle about that, and you cannot say to others that you work with them. I have a roommate who also works with their gods, but that is not my place to say who they personally work with. That is their place to say. You always need to ask whoever you're working with, whether it's Fae, Lucifer, Lilith, Greek gods, Roman gods, Norse gods, doesn't matter. You always need to ask permission when you're telling a new person or even the internet that you work with them. Because if you don't, they get angry. Because some gods they like it kept between them. Like I can say that I'm working with them, but I cannot tell you what exactly I'm working on, and nor should you, really. You really shouldn't tell people, well, I do this or I do this. You really shouldn't. It's basically a direct violation of your contract with that god. Now, I want to talk about something because this was brought to my attention on an app that I use for finding friends. Some people are under the impression that we mean a lot to the gods and goddesses or celestial beings in particular, like Fae. We do not. I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but you are but a small speck to the gods and goddesses and Fae and whichever religion you are, but a small, small speck. They may care about you if you work with them a little more than the others, but that does not really mean that they're your friend. They are never your friend. Don't ever call the person you work with your friends. Faes are not your friend. Gods and goddesses are not your friend. They're just not. I would never call Apollo my friend because that is insulting, and I will explain why. By calling them your friend, you are now implying that you are on the same level as a god. Like if I were to say it to Apollo, it would be saying that, oh, well, I'm on the same level as Apollo. No, that is extremely insulting. Extremely. Do not say that. They are not your friends. They are your guidos. They are more like a parent figure. Because a parent is not your friend. They are there to guide you. They are there to help you through what you are working on. They have strict rules and guidelines in place. So if you have to think about a human relationship with what you have with your gods and goddesses, the closest I could think about is a parent or a mentor of some kind. But they are not your friend and they will never be your friend. For me, the reason why Apollo cares about my mental health is because if my mental health is shit, my craft is shit. And he's there for my craft. So that's what he cares about, my mental health. Now, him and Ares are my main deities, so I know the most about them. I only started working with Ares a little while ago. I have not been working with him long, but I have learned a lot from him. And that's something they will teach you a lot. Be very open when they want to teach you something. Because a lot of people have a closed mind and think that they know everything, and you are always learning something with witchcraft. You are never, even if you've been a witch for, let's say, like 30 years, you will always learn something new from the gods and goddesses or whoever you're working with, because you do not know everything. There is a vast expanse of a universe, and you can't really think that you know every single thing about the universe. So there's also a lot of, especially against Ares, there is a lot of misconception about what kind of god he is. Yes, he is the god of war and carnage, but he is a lot more than that. When you work with him, he tends to make you have a fight within yourself. He wants you to be a better person. He wants you to understand what you've done wrong. He wants you to open up and branch out. He wants you to find the fire within yourself and stand up for yourself, whether that be against your abusers or anything like that. Now, I'm going to be doing a protection spell tonight, and I'm actually going to talk to you guys about how to do that. I do a very, very simple one. I work with Artemis when I do protection spells. I'm allowed to say that. I can't say much more than that because she's a little irritated. Basically, what I do is you want to get like some kind of jar or glass or anything that you can put water in. Fill it up with water. Just from the tap, bottle, doesn't really matter. And you want to get a gem. If you want, I can show you my gem. I cannot show you the altars because I'm not given permission to do that, but this is my gem. Okay? So this is what I use. It's a crystal gem, anything like that. Anything that's like a pure essence that you can put into something like that's filled with water. Personally, I use a water jar. I have a specific water jar. It's better if you have something you use specifically for the water. Now, what I do is I create moon water. You don't necessarily have to create moon water. It doesn't have to be moon water. This is just what I do to better help. It's a very simple ritual. It's very helpful. You want to fill it up as much as you can. Drop the crystal or pure essence in it, gem, crystal, whatever. Make sure that it is charged. And how you charge it is you put it on one of your altars, or you can press your hands together. And what you want to do is you close your eyes. Think of an energy ball. And then I want you to focus the energy ball directly into your hands. And then that's like focusing your energy into the crystal. And then you're going to put that energized crystal into the water, because if it's not energized, this will not work. So then you want to pick a day that there's going to be a moon. It doesn't matter if it's a half moon, it doesn't matter if it's a full moon, just as long as the moon is showing. And you want to put the water, whatever you have it in, directly under the moon. So what I do is the moon's usually facing in my bedroom most days, so I will put it underneath my seal. Now, for best results, I personally make sure that I leave it there overnight. You don't have to. Like, if you need quick results, because it's also very good for banishing demons or banishing negative energies. And not all demons are negative energies. I just want to point that out. That is a very common misconception of Christianity. So basically what you want to do is, I can talk about that in another video about how to banish negative energies with moon water. It's actually very easy. It's very good for beginner witches especially. But basically this is not to banish anything. This is to a protection of the home. So this is to keep negative entities already out. So this is before any even enter your home. So what you're gonna do then? So I'm moving around a lot. And my hair hates me. It just hates me. It's fine. But what you want to do is, once it's done overnight, you take the jar, and if you don't want to do it overnight, 20 minutes minimum. Has to be at least 20 minutes. Especially if you need it very quickly. Like if you need to banish something, then 20 minutes is fine. But before you do any of this, I forgot to mention, you need to ask, if you're working with a deity or you're working with someone, ask them for help while you do this. Ask them to lend you their power. If you don't, you're gonna have to use your own power, which is a little bit more tricky and a lot more draining, per se, because every spell is mentally and spiritually draining, which I will talk about spiritualness, spirituality, sorry, my accent, in a different video. But basically, spirituality is to do with the spirit. It's where your witch power comes from. It's like where the power, your energy comes from. Because it's not something physical. You can never see anything physical. But yeah, after you do that, what I personally do is I spray it around the house, inside the house. So I get one of those little splitzers and I just spray it. You can also dipping your fingers in and just flicking everywhere works perfectly fine too. And then I do outside the house. So I make sure I only stay on my property, but I make sure I get all around the house. And I get all the edges, I get all the little creases, because if there's even one spot that you missed, something's going to come in that way. And you want to make it like, basically, think about it like a square or a circle. You need to make a perfect square. Everything's got to be connected. The line has to be connected or it's not helpful. Another thing that you can do is wearing a pentagon is actually very good protection. A lot of people think it's a Satanism symbol. It is not a Satanism symbol. It was never a Satanism symbol. Again, Christianity just made it a Satanism symbol. And another thing, before I go, because that is how you do protection spell, and that is the first spell you guys learn. That's a very easy, simple beginner witch spell. Before you work with a deity, if you work with anything, please do your research on what you want to do, which path you want to take. Personally, the very first year I was into witchcraft and I was thinking I want to be pagan, all I did was study. I didn't work with anyone. I didn't contact anyone. I just studied. I recommend that for everybody. And then the second year, that's when I started getting reached out to by gods. And let's be real. Let's be like realistic for a second. I do not reach out personally to anyone. So every god that I work with has personally reached out to me because I feel that it is bothering them. It's not necessarily bothering them for you. I just don't like to do it. If you want to reach out, and you're not necessarily reaching out, if you want to reach out to a god, I recommend meditating. So you're going to sit on the bed and you're going to just do the meditating pose, which is cross your legs, this, like this, on your knee. And you're going to focus your energy, and then you're going to kind of like send it out, like send little balls of energy out. Now, it's not going to be towards a particular god. Never call upon a particular god unless you need help with a particular spell. Because if you want someone to work with you, it's better to not particularly call on them, because like they kind of get a little iffy about that. Not necessarily annoyed, just iffy. You can if you want to work with a particular god, but usually they come to you, and I usually let them come to me. But yeah, and how do you know that a god is reaching out to you? Well, first one thing you want to do is you want to make sure it's not a trickster. So how do you know something's not a trickster? Well, very simple. There's 3 simple steps. 1, ask it what its name is, because a trickster cannot say the name of a god or goddess. It just can't. I'm not sure why. It's probably because the name holds power. And by saying the name, you are basically kind of like summoning that god, like they're kind of there, their presence. Not all the time, but if somebody else is pretending to be them, they would definitely come. Second, ask them questions that you have researched about their life. So for example, when Aries reached out to me, I wasn't sure if it was a trickster or not. So what I personally did was I started asking him, well, who are your children, what are their names, and how many do you have? That is a very good question, because really, not a lot of people pay attention to how many children Aries has and what their exact names are. I knew it was Aries because he answered every single one of those 3 questions correctly and without hesitation. That's another thing. If they hesitate or they answer incorrectly, it's a trickster, because a god or goddess will never answer incorrectly, ever. It doesn't matter the circumstances. They hardly ever hesitate. Like, you have to understand, they are celestial beings. They are extremely powerful, extremely knowledgeable. And they are to be respected, for one. Never disrespect a god. And do not say, if someone tells you, oh, well, you know, I had intimate relationships with, someone tried to tell me they had intimate relationships with Aries. That is a lie. You cannot have intimate relationships with any god or goddess. You can't even really have intimate relationships with the Fae. I mean, you could technically, but I would not recommend it, and it is a lot of work. Not to mention, it will come back to you later. Not to mention, if you have intimate relationships with a trickster and you think it's a god or goddess, that is going to come back to haunt you. Seriously. Don't do it. But if someone tries to tell you, well, I have more intimate relationships and stuff, that's not true. Even a priestess would know that even someone who's blessed would not have that kind of relationship with them. Nobody has that kind of relationship with them. It's not a thing. But yeah, so I hope that was helpful for the first video. It's kind of short. I know, only 15 minutes. But I seriously hope that was helpful. If you guys have any specific questions, please let me know. I will also be touching base on more about Greek mythology next video. Because I'm probably going to start talking about Apollo first and Ares. Since those are the two I mainly work with. But if you would like to know about a specific god, even if it's not Greek, if it's North, if it's Roman, anything, let me know and I will look into it. Also, just one more thing before I go. If you are a Christian, and you want to work with God in a way that pagans work, or with other people work with Greeks or with Romans, you can absolutely do that. There are Christian witches, and anybody who tells you that there are not is lying to you. Because there's absolutely Christian witches, and it's a little bit trickier because you make a direct contract with that specific god, and if you break that contract and you decide, oh, I don't want to be a Christian anymore, there are severe consequences to that. I would not recommend breaking a contract with any god. But yeah, if you want to work with if you're Christian and you want to work with your god as a witch, you absolutely can. There are Christian witches. It's not just paganism and Wiccan is any mythology, any religion that you want to work with, you can do. It's not gatekeeping. There are certain rituals and guidelines that you should do with your god and goddesses. I cannot say what my rituals are because that is a direct violation. But I will give you some examples in the next video. Anyway, I hope you guys all have a blessed day. And if you have any questions about anything Pacific, or you want me to search up any Pacific god, leave it in the comments. Okay, bye!